you have an opportunity to do many things as you do business in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, let me lastly, I'm pleased to announce that Kenya will co-host the inaugural World Chamber Federation Africa Summit in Nairobi from April 9 to 11 next year, alongside the International Chamber of Commerce and the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That is yet another opportunity for you to find a space where you will speak to the African business people combined with business people from across the world in one city and explore opportunities that will help us drive trade, investment, and many opportunities as we look into the future. Let me confirm to you one final thing, that Kenya is a robustly democratic country. You have no risk of anybody appropriating your business. We have a very strong judiciary. We have an accountable administration. We have a parliament that works. And we have systems that protect business and protect the rights of everybody. That is the beauty of running a democracy. It's not easy, as you know, running a democracy. But they say it is the most difficult, but a better one has not been found. So, and we are very proudly democratic. Sometimes it's noisy, but that's the beauty of democracy. It is like in church, you sometimes need a choir. So otherwise, thank you very much. Welcome to Kenya.
Thank you very much for those rousing and inspiring remarks, Your Excellency. You may all be seated. I had the pleasure of hearing His Excellency's remarks in Nairobi earlier this year as part of the African Development Bank's annual meeting. It was a Pan-African focused remarks, and we all left there so deeply inspired. For the Pan-Africanist or the Africophiles in the room. It was a vision that was both inspiring, deliberate, thoughtful, about ways to think about imagining a new engagement for Africa. And similarly, we've heard such inspiring, thoughtful, detailed remarks about how a shining star in East Africa, Kenya, how there can be more deliberate engagement. I'm going to ask if Your Excellency might come back onto the stage, and I'm also going to ask if Chairman Olajide, as well as CEO Flori Lizer, Chairman Bidi, and John Kachora, if you could all come onto the stage for a brief Q&A session. Thank you. It's a great opportunity for the business leaders in the room to engage with the President to talk about some of these issues that he shared. It's exciting times for Kenya, U.S. business, and it would be wonderful to hear from those here in the room. I'm going to start with Visa. Ms. Adama Iwu, Head of External Partnerships and Political Strategy. Do you have a question that you would raise with the President or any of the leaders on the stage?
Sure. Good morning. This is excellent. Thank you so much. Visa's doing quite a bit of work we've been working with yourself, your ministers on a number of different things. We'd love to talk a little bit more, hear a little bit more about your plans to make finance a little bit more accessible for citizens. I believe we've been working with I probably pronounced it right. Apologies for that. But I know that government digitization, helping move funds, money movement is a priority. We'd love to do more. I'd love to hear about your thoughts on digitization.
Thank you very much. You're spot on. It's called Gavam Kanon. That's what you want. I mean, it just means government in your hands. And this is a program that she responded to because we are, 2 years ago, we had only 320 government services available online. Today, we have 21,000 government services available online. And this was a deliberate strategy to leverage on technology and the digital space to make government much more efficient and to make government much more transparent. So not only are government services available online, but government payments, which initially were largely in cash by check and other sticky, mechanisms. Today, you can pay literally for any government service from the comfort of your home using M-Pesa. And that is the trajectory. It is our plan that by the end of this year, God willing, every government service will be available online, and we want to thank Visa for what they are doing with our State Department for Citizen Services. We are expanding that space. We are working with other partners to leverage, of course, on technology as we move into that technology space. And it's not just government business. We're trying to expand the digital footprint around the country. We are currently engaged between the Ministry of ICT, Ministry of Power and Energy to spread the fiber optic footprint around Kenya. And that has its own competitive issues. I know I have my CEO for Safaricom here. Sometimes he's not very happy with me for bringing other characters like Elon Musk and others into the space. But you see, I keep encouraging Peter that competition makes you, keep ahead. And he's been doing pretty well, I must admit. He's really upped his game. And so that element of competition, and that is why even as we have a conversation with Visa, we're also in conversation with MasterCard, and we are in conversation with others, because we want to keep that space competitive. And I just want to confirm here that we're doing 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic around Kenya. We want to connect 10,000 institutions, hospitals, schools, markets, with hotspot and with fiber optic, so that we can expand e-commerce, we can access government services, because shortly we want to run a paperless government.
Thank you for that, Your Excellency. Let's turn to the financial services sector. A question from Mr. Selo Muloko, Group Chairman of ABSA Bank.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Selo Muloko from South Africa. Mr. President, maybe I should just share a quick personal message I've just sent to my son, who's based here in New York, who shared with me on Saturday that he wants to move in to Kenya to work on a renewable energy project. So I just sent him a text saying that I've just listened to one of the best presentations on an economy by an African head of state, the best ever. And I don't say this lightly, Mr. President. As ABSA, obviously, we are looking to expand our horizons into the continent outside of South Africa. Kenya is proving for us to be a very important part of that expansion into the rest of the continent. Certainly, we've been watching the events unfold in Kenya, and we remain committed, and our commitment is unwavering because we see Kenya as one of the anchors of our strategy outside of South Africa. But I'm tempted to ask the question, Mr. President, around maybe for you just to give us a flavor of the financial reforms, because obviously as a systemically important institution, that's one of the things that we're looking at. Encouraged by the speech today, has confirmed to me that my son is making the right call and that we at ABSA are making the right call, but we just need to understand progress that's being made with regards to the financial reforms in the country.
You're so correct on the space around financial reforms. You just heard me mention about what we are doing around having a predictable tax regime that makes it easy for business to plan at least long term in terms of what is the fiscal space, what are the taxes in place, and we have been continuously reviewing that space. As I told you, we take a lot of feedback. We had a meeting with the American Chamber of Commerce. We've had meetings with different groups. Later in December, we're going to have another European, with EU, a conversation around what they think about our tax regime so that we can align it with best practice. Let me give you an example. Digital tax has really given us some headache. But finally we decided to align our digital tax with OECD standards. That way we don't offend anybody and we keep the standard above board. We had challenges with VAT returns. I made the decision that once VAT returns are certified, if you are not paid by our revenue authorities within 6 months, you can then net off those returns on your other tax obligations. That way, I make compliance both ways, so that either they pay you on time or they lose their tax because we have to recover from what they are doing. So we are continuously improving that tax space to make sure that we are aligned. Let me also say that the reason why we are expanding space around special economic zones, around export processing zones, is because we want to have a predictable regime in that space that has clear tax incentives that you can think about 10 years, you can plan 20 years as you invest in that space. ABSA has been a great partner of the Republic of Kenya with a very big footprint. I'm happy that you are thinking about that space one more time. And if there is anything that we can do specifically for ABSA, please let us know. We will be at hand to deal with it. I have my chief of staff here, Eden, who is for information. He's a former employee of ABSA. So he knows his way around.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you, Mr. Moloko, particularly for that personal vignette. Let's turn now to Mr. Charles Murito. His Excellency referenced the 30% request of shares from Google previously. Mr. Murito is Director of Sub-Saharan Africa for Google. Do you have a question for the President?
I answered all his questions.
That you did. So, Your Excellency, I think what I may ask is perhaps make a quick comment, especially as Kenya is working towards its economic prosperity journey. It's imperative for us to really harness the power of AI, which I was happy that no one mentioned it before, so that at least I get the opportunity to be the first to talk about it here. But as we think about that, AI is definitely going to have great impact, not just in terms of the technology itself, but thinking about some of the things that you mentioned around agriculture, around health, education as well. And it's something that really we think about as what we call a general purpose technology, which is really the foundation of everything else to be built upon. So it's not about technology itself, but really what it can do to accelerate the economic growth. And as we know, we in Africa definitely need that. So, Your Excellency, as you know, we did sign our joint statement of collaboration earlier this year in DC, and there's been quite a lot of progress in that around the national AI policy, and we commend your government for working closely on that. So my question to you, and really my offer, is that we as Google are working closely with other technology companies as well as other private sector companies are really on standby to offer any support that you and your administration want. And so please reach out to us if we need to help, especially around AI and all the implications that it can have to accelerate the economic growth for Kenya and all the other countries across the continent. Thank you so much, Your Honor. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Charles. And I agree with you that your support in that space around AI has been immense. We're actually playing catch up, because I was very pleasantly surprised. I went to one of our technical training colleges and I found a young man there, I think his name was Brian. And Brian told me that he is working for an AI company in Germany. And this is a college that is in remote Kenya, 400 kilometers from Nairobi. That Brian doesn't have a passport. He has never been to the capital city of Nairobi, but he works for an AI company in Germany. That is, the kind of space where we are. Meanwhile, as government, we are yet to figure out how to deal with AI. We've just finished the policy, and I'm happy to report here that Parliament is now seized with the necessary legislation and guidelines that will support our AI journey. But already we are leveraging on AI to do two very important things. One, we are leveraging on AI to do our means testing instrument for how we are distributing education money to beneficiaries, so that we can use AI to get the algorithms that will give us what is the financial status of which parent. We are using the same to desegregate how we distribute our fertilizer to farmers. And we are now using it for the beneficiaries of our universal health coverage program. There are people who government has to pay for because they cannot afford. Again, AI is helping us in that space. But finally, maybe something that I would ask Charles here is the challenge we have with the negative effects of AI. We have a lot of generative stuff, fake news, misinformation, disinformation. Some of it that hardly people know can know what is true from what is not true. And it is quite a menace. So again, that's the space that we need to work together. And finally, to think about cybersecurity. We still have very serious challenges around cybersecurity. Sometimes I have to call Peter to figure out when government services are attacked, and he's been immensely useful with the Safaricom and other players. So again, I think there is scope for us to collaborate with Google and others so that we can better secure that place. And You know, even the conversation we are having in the Summit of the Future is about artificial intelligence, the misuse and the misuse. You know, there are those who are missing the opportunity to use it, and there are those, of course, who are in the space I've talked about. So again, that is space we can all think about.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you, Charles, for that question. I'm going to turn this now to Mr. Eunice Teller, Senior Director, Government Relations and Public Policy at Procter & Gamble. And Eunice, I'm wondering if Charles referenced that AI had not been spoken about before, so it's something new. If you have a new question for the President, not to put you on the spot.
Definitely, I'm put on the spot. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a pleasure to be here. I really was glad to hear about the potential expansion of the US-Kenya trade agreement, and of course the tax reforms we're talking about internally are massive and very well appreciated. One other further area that can improve the further ecosystem for us as Procter & Gamble is the expansion of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement deployment across the continent. It's a great opportunity across the board for inter-Africa trade. And associated with that is the harmonization of the Kenyan product standards in terms of being compatible with the globe. So whenever they are compatible, it opens the doors for Kenyan products, meat products, to be exported to the rest of Africa and the rest of the world at ease. So just a comment, no questions here, just an appreciation of the development that's happening in Kenya, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Eunice. So we'll turn now to Ms. Tara Nathan. Tara, where are you? Okay, wonderful. Executive Vice President for Humanitarian and Development and EVP and founder of Community Pass and MasterCard. Tara, do you have any question for His Excellency?
Yes. Hello, Mr. President. I think we had the honor to meet when you were here in May to talk about Community Pass at MasterCard, which is also, I'll be the second to mention AI, but it's for digital technology. But for us, one of the things that we're doing via digital technology is making sure on how that's applied to rural, remote communities and making sure that no one's left behind in this digital revolution that we're talking about. Community Pass focuses on rural smallholder farmers. So I would love to hear a little bit more about the agricultural sector, as we had a chance to talk about. For us, when we think about digital technology at MasterCard and through Community Pass, it's really about figuring out how can digital technology not only provide identities, but provide access to markets so that farmers can get competitive bids, how they can get access to authentic and pure inputs so that they know that the seeds that they're planting are real, that they get access to credit. The main thing that we're really focused on is taking that ecosystem approach, which I think we talked about. So one of the things that we're very proud of is we talked to you, Mr. President, about the MADE Alliance, the Mobilizing Access to the Digital Economy, which in Africa, which we announced at the call to action from Vice President Harris in May. We're proud to announce that now we're launching it in Kenya. And in fact, Community Pass, I should say, was actually innovated and developed in Kenya, and we exported it across the world. It's now live in 7 different markets across the globe. But very interested to sort of hear more about your thoughts around digitization, specifically in the agriculture space or in the space of the smallholder farmer, and sort of reaching those folks that are rural, that are more marginalized, that constitute over 7 million or close to 7 million inhabitants across Africa, across Kenya, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A year and a half ago, we decided that we are going to distribute our fertilizer on a digital platform using e-voucher. We registered 5 million farmers, and every farmer today in Kenya has a voucher that gives them a government subsidy, and therefore they pay less what the government has subsidized on fertilizer. It is amazing. And in fact, I went to one of the depots to see. There is no cash. Everybody has come with their phone, with their voucher, and they are paying using a digital platform. It has done three things for our Kenyan farmers. It has increased efficiency, it has increased transparency, and today we have a record as government as to how much money we're going to pay, because we can easily reconcile the vouchers that have been given out by our depots from what the farmers have bought. And number three, it has also given us accuracy that farmers are buying seeds and fertilizer that is certified by our KEFIS, the certifying agency in Kenya. So Peter here will tell you they work with us on developing, again, the voucher framework with them, and many banks are part of that ecosystem. And I'm sure my good brother here from NCBA can confirm that the banking industry are now part of that ecosystem of working with us on that digital platform to be able to distribute fertilizer. One last thing is it's very interesting today on the predictability of weather. I mean, the simple gadgets that today are being used by farmers to know when to plant. They can predict up to a month of what's going to happen. And I find, even in my farm, that my farm manager can tell me we should plant on Tuesday next week because there will be rain on Thursday and Friday. And that really is phenomenal. This is something that has never been the case. So there is much more accuracy, especially in the context of climate change, on when farmers can plant, on when they can do the next step. And therefore, I would look forward to the rollout of the technology you have talked to me about, and hopefully we can build it into the ecosystem that exists at the moment.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Last question we have from John Kachora of Kenyan Private Sector Alliance. We heard earlier from Jazz for KEPSA. John, where are you?
I am here.
I couldn't find you in the audience. That would be why.
Maybe what I'll do is make a couple of comments. When the president was speaking, there were a couple of questions regarding accessibility to finance from Adama and, of course, from the chairman, the former chairman, from ABSA. I'm also from ABSA, by the way. Our financial reforms. I thought I would really mention two things. One is that Kenya has one of the highest financial inclusion rates in Africa at 86% as of last year. It's one of the highest in Africa. Beyond that, I think, is the question of what the government has done. I think one thing that perhaps is not talked out a lot, Your Excellency, is the effect of the HASA fund as far as financial inclusion is concerned. Quite often we measure financial inclusion in terms of transactions, and of course the M-Pesa has done a very good job of bringing people into that. But I think really financial inclusion must have the other two components, which is savings as well as borrowings. And I think what HASA fund has done is bring the rest of the population that was doing transactions in M-Pesa but not being able to borrow and to save into that saving culture. So today I would say that number, I'm waiting for the next survey. I would say, Your Excellency, I'll be surprised if we're not over 90% in terms of financial inclusion. So really good job on that. I think the other comment that perhaps I'll make is that obviously there was the news about Kenya getting grandlisted as far as zoning is concerned. And I think what is, again, I'd like to talk about is the reforms that the government has put in place to make sure that Kenya is on the global standard as far as AMI and financing of crime is concerned. Parliament enacted a very strict law that really put us on a very global scale. If you look at our laws today, probably the best in the world as far as this AMI issue is concerned. So really, those are the two reforms I want to talk about as being key things that the government has done. I think beyond that, the president has talked about the digitalization of government services. I would say today, Kenya is a country where you can pay for everything to do with government with the digital line. Yeah? It doesn't matter who you are, you can get on it and make payments. And I think that's really has helped, one, in terms of education, two, in terms of the use of AI, as the president has talked about. And the last one I would say, Your Excellency, is that I'm also a small-scale farmer. And I have my voucher for fertilizer, so I want to say I'm giving evidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, John, I also have mine.
Thank you, John. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to thank President Ruto. Really, for such an engaging dialogue. I think a couple takeaways. One is all roads lead from ABSA, apparently, to Kenya. But really, just exciting to hear of the significant incentives that are being put in place in Kenya to support business. It's an exciting time to invest. I'd like to invite Peter Ndegwa, CEO of Safaricom, to come and give some brief closing remarks. And then we'll have a vote of thanks and bring our program to a close. Thank you, Peter.
Good morning, everyone. Let me try what John asked. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, I was waiting for His Excellency to sit. I don't start speaking before Your Excellency sits here. I might be in trouble. You know, I should say that Safaricom, which I work for, is one of the most successful privatization, where the government still holds 35%. So it's a very good private sector, a public-private partnership. The reason I'm saying that is I have to behave because His Excellency is my shareholder. Yeah. So, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, all protocols observed. Distinguished guests, good morning. I'm going to make a few comments, both as a key private sector player in the market of Kenya and also in the region. We've just gone into Ethiopia. A successful business in East Africa, the Safaricom PLC, you have heard the President mention a few times, is the largest communication business. We serve about 36 million customers in Kenya, almost basically the whole population. And also the pioneer of M-Pesa, which is the most successful mobile payment platform in the region, and actually I should say globally has set the standards, transacts about $1 billion every day, and actually the international money transfer, which is all the money the diaspora send to the country, is now just about $4.5 billion, of which about half comes from the US. When the President, who is our Chief Marketing Officer, actually speaks about Kenya being a digital hub, it is actually true when we have demonstrable local companies that are leading the way in the region. And we've just now gone into Ethiopia, where we are investing about $2.5 billion to start a new operation and also see another success with mobile money. So delighted to be here. It's been quite an engaging forum this morning. Thank you, Excellency, for marketing our country, and also all the other speakers who have spoken about and showcased Kenya. The private sector continues to actively contribute to the economy through job creation, technology and infrastructure investment, and community programs. And as we say at Safaricom, it's about not just technology, but using technology to provide solutions that solve societal problems, whether that is in healthcare, you have had, in agriculture with the vouchering program, driving digital inclusion and also financial inclusion across the country. The private sector plays a vital role in accelerating the SDGs, and we are all here this week to talk about the SDGs, which we know are behind, and private sector plays a crucial role in this area, and SDGs are crucial for development. We will be participating in several stakeholder forums this week, where we will look at how best to approach key SDGs targets and follow up with commitments towards achieving them. As Kenya business leaders, we are privileged to have the support of our government, the leadership of His Excellency William Ruto. When I listen to the President always speaking, we say no more. He is our Chief Marketing Officer who has enabled efforts to drive innovation and economic outcomes through a digital superhighway, which you have heard him speak about. The digital superhighway has created opportunities in streamlining government services, which has improved outputs and digitization of records. This has been facilitated by private sector investment in technology, some of which were mentioned today, and we are very happy to be involved. And this is broad partnerships between banks, technology companies, private sector players across the board. Our role as private sector has been to support digital transformation by investing in infrastructure, in financial support, and I've heard John speaking, and also in training. So I urge everyone in the room and potential investors in particular from the US to take this opportunity to invest in Kenya and to take cognizance of the digital revolution that is happening. As members of KEPSA, we are ready to support any engagement with the public sector and deepen private sector involvement in steering the economy forward. And very happy to be here, and thank you for your participation. Thank you very much this morning.
Thank you so much. I am here to give the vote of thanks, but let me also say that I spoke over the weekend with Carol Kariuki, who said she was so sorry she couldn't be here, and as a longtime partner with her, CCA and KEPSA, I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge her work at KEPSA as well. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, for being here, for being a visionary leader, not just of Kenya, but of Africa. And please know that Corporate Council on Africa, that focuses solely and exclusively on building trade, investment, and business with Africa, is always here to support Kenya and your vision.
Hold it. Thank you very much. I know this is out of protocol, but I just thought of saying just one thing. Peter has spoken very eloquently about what we're doing, and that the government of Kenya is a shareholder in his. And when you mentioned shareholder, I thought about dividends. And he has said that I'm the chief marketing manager. You know, I have to really work hard because Kenyans set very high standards for me. I really have no choice. And good is not good enough. They only believe in excellent. So that's why sometimes, you know, when I'm doing something good, they still push me. Sometimes with a little demonstration here that you're not doing as much as we told you to do. But it just speaks to what we have to do. And as we do that in Kenya, and I have spoken to you broadly about the expanded Pan-African space. And I just thought that in our midst, we have our former Prime Minister, the Honorable Raila Odinga, who is gunning for the chair of the African Union Commission, because as a country, I lead the charge on reform of the AU, and there cannot be any better reform than having the correct leadership to drive the African agenda. And so I just thought introducing Raila Odinga, our former Prime Minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you, Flory. With that, we bring our conversation to a close. What a treat to have had these remarks from the President of Kenya, as well as this engaging dialogue with the business leaders, both within the U.S. and in Kenya. Thank you all so much. I'd ask if you could stand as the President and his dignitaries leave the room. Thank you so much.